My name is Morris Fernandez and I'm a citizen of British Columbia, Canada. I came here in 1969 and I'm talking at the park in Guildford, just at the back of the Canadian Superstore in Surrey, British Columbia. The time now is about 3:30 p.m. on Wednesday, the 4th of October 2006. I want to bring to your notice just a little stint of my working in Hope for 10 days, where a house was vandalized, completely trashed, and where we were trying to fix it up a year and a half later, with the little funds that we were able to get. And this is some of the obstructions that I met. I arrived in Hope on Friday, the 22nd of September 2006, to build a new sun deck. Am I going too fast? At the back of 323 Allison Avenue, saw City Hall and got the new building permit for plumbing and a new wall to be put up. Nothing really was said on Saturday, but on Sunday, the 24th of September 2006, two males wanted to fight me because they started the usual hatred talking. They just moved in about 6 months ago at 335 Allison, that's next door. Their female child, about 5 years of age, came onto my property, turned to face them and smiled so that they would stop. I waited for a few minutes and then walked up to them and said, "If you begin your talk of hatred, your own child will begin crying." Immediately, two male adult Caucasians came onto my property and one fellow ahead said, "I will kick you in the arse." He repeated this and threatened violence. He was backed up by another male who also threatened violence, and then picked up his little girl and told me, "Keep our family out of this." Knowing that he did not understand what I said, I repeated that his daughter would cry if they talked their hatred. And somehow, I guess, not knowing proper English, or whether he spoke only in American or Canadian, this fellow got together with the other clown and they shouted that they would kick me in the ass, and on loudly. A homeowner came from the opposite side, came over and told them something. Then they shouted louder that they would harm me. I had John Harwood working with me, and one fellow asked him, "Who are you?" He immediately, as the usual coward he is, said, "I only work for Morris." He was left alone. I went to the back of the house to assemble materials for construction of the sun deck, and they went to the back of their home too and shouted, "Your house is junk, you are junk, and if you do not clean up your junk, I will come there and kick you in the ass." He said that he had to scare me because I was for the last way. He also said, "Go on, put on your sun deck and we will burn it down along with your house." They kept on shouting violent things, but I never responded. Half an hour later, one fellow left. I think he comes here only on weekends to cause trouble, and then the noise subsided. Before this, the female owner on the north side of my home said, 10 minutes earlier, "Go to sleep." Within brackets, not to do the sun deck, bracket ends, as we are taking you away to the States. They also said this in 1978, and I lost my family because partly due to these statements. Now, I have itemized all the situations here by date, time, place, and wherever possible, the people involved. Monday, 25th September 2006, the opposite house fellow said from the west side, there for his assessment. He is on to the cops. Then he drove off to work. At Rona Ravi at 10 o'clock, one fellow said, "He is the conqueror." 10:30 at the Vision Credit Union, female on cell phone said, "He's at your mercy." She walked up to me to say this. Monday night about 1:30 a.m., two female cops came while John and I were sleeping in the truck, as we are not allowed to sleep in the house. Tell you about this later. 10 minutes earlier, I was fighting the satanic spirits, telling them to go back home as they were cowards for not standing up to me for me, taping the nightmares and revealing it was mind control hatred, as I would have been freed in 1987, well in time for Christmas. So one cop told the other, he does the opposite in the night, flashed the torch into my face and brilliantly, quickly, without blinking an eyelid said, "Morris, we got a complaint that you were working on the house." Then it dawned on me that all their so-called complaints from the neighbors were nothing but reading my mind and going to the house even when I was not there. And in my place in Surrey, BC, while I was in my place in Surrey, BC, what a relief at this con job by people who have to serve and protect us and not cause problems that would bankrupt us. So they had thousands of complaints over the years saying that they were coming daily to the house, they were doing this, they were 3 or 4 times they were coming daily. So they were trying to get the city hall to close the house down. What it really was is they were working from my mind, and anything they didn't like caused them to come there and create a problem. Then they would write it in their diary or whatever, the work notebook or whatever it is that they keep records on, and then come to City Hall when there was a meeting and say, look, we've had all these complaints about you and all this sort of thing, what do you say? So I was able to have good answers for them, and I got them off my back. But this is the source, this is how it works. They work from my head. Tuesday, September 26th, City Hall building inspector inspected the framing of the sun deck. He told John afterwards, we did this so that he serves you. Then he said something about City Hall inspector and laughed when he read my thoughts. So now we know that City Hall was with their own people to destroy my home and collectively wreck my income. Don't forget that they stole my commercial building at 541 Wallace Avenue in Hope, BC, by saying that I could not rent it for lack of a parking space. This was the same building where one tenant refused to pay the rent. We did up the other side like brand new with a false ceiling, new wiring, etc. It looked great, and then the axe was dropped. I had to sell it as fast as I could, and the previous owner, after taking one look at it, bought it. He's presently asking double the price he paid for it. That's okay. He also had no problem with any parking space problems. I asked him very thoroughly about this. His name is Cameron Tall. Then the building inspector at that time, Mr. Orrit, came to Rona Ravi and told them in general, he cannot do business in Hope. He has to leave the country. I was there standing at the back right at the back of him and was shocked. These are racists and use hatred to mock me and the power of office. You will see this as we go on. 12 noon. The radio began its fun again at Rona Ravi. I told a friend about this via my cell phone. Then somebody said he has the radio and switched it off. At the liquor store, actually somebody said hello. I was so shocked that I remained silent. Normally they snarl, have a rude expression on their faces, and never come out as employees with customer service experience. They call themselves communists and therefore are protected from normal courtesies? That's ridiculous. At 4:15 p.m. at PharmaSave, he does not want to come. We did this to him and now he wants to stay. These were female students from Washington State. 6 o'clock, radio. We took her away because we were told he was to be a senator. Why did you tell him you were for Jesus Christ when you are dirty? Asked a female to this male on the radio. The fellow replied, he's on to us, he's on to this. The moment I phoned my friend, they stopped talking. 27th of September, Wednesday, 1:05 p.m. We lifted her to make him poor. I don't know which house this came from. They are referring to my wife and family. At 2:30 p.m. they said, he was scared here and that is why he went there. He lost a lot of his properties because he was scorned here. This is what one senior citizen was telling the cab driver of the local cab company in Hope. I think he was talking to the ex-wrestler Kiriski. Then the senior said, we need him to stay here. One American child then said, while his mother held him up, we want him coming there right now. 28th September, about 10 a.m., my dog Champ was being tied with a thick rope to one of the front trees, began screaming, and we heard it from the back of the house. He was attacked by a pit bull, viciously black and white dog, and as soon as I ran towards them, this dog ran away. Apparently the SPCA fellow said that this dog was running loose the previous day and he could not catch it. He later called saying he saw the owner and fined him $200. 10:50 a.m. at Rona Ravi. Male American with sunglasses on said he saw us in a flash. And in the store, somebody else said, it's good to see is perfect. This by a male to his wife. At the liquor store, one female said to another, this has gone too far. He is looking for his money. At the telephone booth in the same parking lot, a native Indian said from a payphone, he is a legend. I would like to fill you on a bit of previous history on how 323 Allison was destroyed last year. When I bought it in 1991, among other properties, all the people of Hope in BC said, we will not rent from you unless you suck us. So I had no choice but to rent to people willing to rent. This, however, turned out to be 100% welfare recipients who were on drugs, liquor and other ailments thanks to the free time given to them by the Social Services Department of the federal government. They would break some part of the home in installments over a period just to make me lose a lot of money fixing it. Then, to make it worse, Hope City Hall decided to repair their water mains in front of the house 3 times, and each time 4 inches of water rushed into the house basement, destroying beds, clothes, shoes, etc., etc. And these tenants went by themselves to City Hall for reimbursement. City Hall refused. So they took it out on me by wrecking the house, smashing doors and windows, burning bifold doors, tearing up the carpet in pieces, and refusing to pay the rent, while using Kathy Henry as their go-between to say that they would resort to violence if I insisted on collecting the rents. They were 3.5 months due on the rent before I got them out, as I had other problems in Surrey and could not be present in Hope at the same time. Then one fellow named Ed Sumner told John Howard that he was going to do things that would intimidate me because I was not leaving Hope for the US, and because I was not on the same thinking level as him, and because I was talking to City Hall on the same level, it was against his ways. And so he began to interfere with the gas furnace, disabling it. I got it fixed and got them all out again. Then they would come back, put on all the lights in the night, use the stove to cook, and then he started interfering with the gas meter, bringing the gas inside the house. They were very lucky, as they were smoking cigarettes in the house, and they could have got blown up. I saw this, I immediately got Terracent to remove the gas meter and the electricity meter. They would still come in and use the facilities to sleep and continue with the breaking of window panes, appliances, etc., etc. They even tossed out the washer machine and the dryer upside down on the carport and smashed it. Here are some of the things I got from the wall. Other walls have already been replaced, and you'll see how they really are. I'm going to read it out exactly how they had printed it there. Morris fucking Becky. What a petric dish of the AIDS virus. Morris does go home, then goes home, and callously fucks his own sons and daughters. Evil incarnate. There's a big swastika sign there, about 10 inches in green paint. We still cannot get it out. Then they have next to it, Sand Nigger, Slum Lord, Death Becomes You. Morris is a bestialist extraordinary. Besides dogs and goats, he fucks little boys and eats little girls, and his wife still with her cherry. Morris, you're a sleazed ball, homo. The funny thing is, these people were all from the USA. Just to show you how crude, rude, and really low these people are, that's why I actually showed this to you. At 5:30 p.m. at Rona Revi, Laylene said to customer, they asked me if he sees me as his darling, and I said yes. She is an employee of Rona Revi. At the liquor store, we heard you wanted to hit our fellow. The other fellow said, he's hating us. 29 September, Friday, City Hall final inspection on the sun deck. Inspector to John, he's on to our trick, meaning that I could not sleep in the house with my employees, even though the house was very, very sound, as they admitted in City Hall themselves in the Hope Standard newspaper. And we were staying there from March 2005 till July 2006, when they issued a no occupancy permit, which was based on my thoughts. 9:50 a.m. Neighbor doing his roof on a house on Yale Street, just 2 houses away, said, we want him to fuck, as he's always for here. He knows we're the ones scaring him. 12 noon, manager of liquor store says, now he'll be sexy. Within brackets, as the sun deck inspection was finished, bracket ends, one Unitas uniform man told him, as I was walking away, said, he was for you. 30th of September, Saturday, RCMP officer advising me to sell the house to all the neighbors putting in money. I thought this was very funny, because they were the very people who had been petitioning that the flop house had to be removed from the town. And these are the very people who refused to rent, etc., etc. He went to see the house inside with John Howard, and John told him as soon as I finished the house, I would begin fighting for everything I lost. And he said, oh, he will fix it, but we are ready for him. Then he told me that he was in real estate before joining the RCMP, and that I should get a price slightly over the mortgage and get rid of it. Funny, it was the RCMP that told me that if Mr. Fernandez wanted to be in real estate, we want him to be a criminal. When I went to Revi on the way, a few houses on Yale Street, a few men were talking, and as soon as they saw me, they began the sensuous movement up and down with the legs like this. Then I knew that the social service talking RCMP had failed to make headway with me, and they knew I had never sold a house without fixing it up. The RCMP office stated over and over again, sell it without fixing it up and get it out, as it was a flop house with a bad history. 6:30 p.m. at Buy and Save store. Heinz, owner, said, he's on to our scheme, and the female said, then we will be calling him in the morning as he was for our development. Nobody called. This girl was an American citizen saying that I had worked for their country and therefore they're going to take me away. They said the same thing in 78 and nothing happened. 9 o'clock, female at Allison, at 335 Allison. We want to solve this, but he wants to fuck. 1st of October, 10:05 a.m. Female neighbor at 335 Allison. He's a rapist, so he has to serve us. 2:30 p.m. at Buy and Save store. Female cashier to customers. We want him to get violent. Can you believe this? All this in the space of 10 days. Please help, as I want to be financially free from the white mind-controlled hatred, as I have discovered that almost all the people in the States and in Canada are all coolies, and because I am for myself and they are in my mind, I get hammered for anything and everything that they can think of, and I am powerless to respond. All nations, you cannot see one great fellow smashed from all sides by the dirtiest race in the world. People who are known mostly to lick their genitals, have sex with horses, dogs, cats, reptiles, even fish, and all humans. Please help, as I am lost because I am excellent. They wake me up each day still to keep me from excelling, and my back hurts because of this. When I came from India to Canada in 1969, I was full of ideas, ambitions, and goals for myself and family. And they repaid this kindness with doing and my family, and repaid the kindness. When I came from India to Canada in 1969, I was full of ideas, ambitions, and goals for myself and family, and repaid the kindness of their bringing me here with doing my hobbies for free, i.e., giving new ideas to Canadians and Americans alike. All I got in return was white, mind-controlled hatred. Not even a coffee has been offered to me for all these 37 years that I'm in this country. And also, instead, I'm being hammered through the head by the mad whites from British Columbia. These same mad whites from British Columbia entered my head when I landed here and spread this mind-controlled aggression against me all over the world, defaming me and naming me as a rapist, to all to hide their antics and get the support of their peers. The transit used this to the best of their advantages and would not even acknowledge that I was being hammered on the buses. They said this was paranoia and got me off the job each time I brought this to their attention. How can anyone sit around this and not do or say anything? I went to the UBC, the University of Washington State, and the UCLA in 1978 to tell them excitedly about the Germans who might have perfected the transmission of electricity without wires. Immediately, my family was removed that very night. I sent a telegram to the then President Carter telling him, as my hobby too, that he should get his transportation in shape for the entire country. That very day, 2.5 hours later, I received a call from my wife at that time to come to the family court and lost my children to her hours later. I did not know that this was all done through white mind-controlled hatred. And when I did, I felt that the Americans would state, since I lost my family to them, that it was mind control, and they would tape the nightmares broadcast on the radios and televisions so that I would be free. They refused, saying that if we had taped the nightmares, he would have had you, meaning the Canadians. But we could not, because we see you as our own. My God, this has hurt very badly, as the Americans were doing what they do best, protect their own white race, no matter what outrageous things they were doing to me. This has really hurt, because besides this, when they came in 1987, they lost my family for the second time by not saying it was mind control to enable me to get them before the children married. The children are under the sadistic control of the Scots in Australia, and this I cannot forgive. Also, my son had to marry again because the woman he first married did not want to have children. And when she did have one, whatever happened, they divorced. I do know that in your white race you do not believe in families, as you, to whom it relates to, have sex with them and animals and reptiles and orgies, even openly, especially in Florida. Miss Tonia, the Seattle teacher who had sex with an 11-year-old boy in her class, summed it up for all of us. She said, "God forgive us. We are all like this." If what she said is true, then all of you are sexual fiends in the white race, and I cannot understand why Foley is being put on as a scapegoat when you're all like that. Why not admit it before the police find out, just like finding out how many of you are on drugs and rape charges? If all you whites are as dirty as Miss Tonia said, then why are you punishing me for being outstanding and clean? You took away my wife so that I would be dirty, but being divorced, my Catholic faith allows me to have sex. Yet, I did not have sex from 1978 to 1995 when I met her in Australia, because I wanted to be clean for her and the USA and Canada, whom I led as a hobby. The exception being that I led the Americans in 1976 so that I would save my family from the persecution in Canada. I did not do this for a Senate position, as I hate servants ruling everything. You can see how your country is going to the dogs, because your Senate is for the people's way, especially turning on me on my real estate to stop my financial freedom the rightful way. Why am I sleeping in the truck in hope because the authorities want me to? I and others have stayed in that very house when there was no electricity and no gas, when it was icy and had no hot water for baths, when there was mold in the basement due to City Hall's faulty water mains, and when the mold was taken away and new installation in Gyprock installed, they put in a no occupancy permit so that we could only work in the day but sleep outside. I have built a new sun deck and boarded the windows, but still cannot stay inside. It seems that Hope City Hall is more concerned with the sound building than it is for us. Can you believe this bullshit? Yet it has been the daily way of the whites against me, because they are afraid of my thinking and talking about thinking. The whites were successful in stopping all my thoughts and brainwashing me with their fearful tactics while waking me up 5 to 7 times per night for 37 years. I would like to be interviewed by the media to find out who gave the whites the power to enter my mind, ruin my family and myself in the millions of dollars, treat me like a pariah, when indeed they are the dirtiest race in the world. And confirmation about this can be had from Miss Tonia of Seattle, Washington State, USA, where she is a teacher. I demand that Canada and the United States pay me immediately and stop showing Foley off as the bad guy when all of you are in the same boat, or in fact worse. And don't forget, you are the race that introduced genital licking. So why am I affected? For 37 years, I have been ridiculed for my outstanding ideas and have had my real estate torn away from me as a result. I think the United Nations should take a look at it, especially when I was the one that recommended the media go into Africa in 1976 to show the atrocities done to the people there by the whites and others so they get their freedom. I need help now from the United Nations and anywhere else in power to straighten this out, and those in power, please do whatever it takes to straighten it out and get my freedom from white mind-controlled hatred and obtain financial compensation for the loss of my family and my real estate. The whites denied me bringing up the children to my high standards of excellence, and this hurts. Please help. Thank you. When I came from India to Canada in '69, these chaps had already infiltrated my mind, and I didn't figure it out. They had three or four single women approach me before going to Canada Manpower. These women would sort of force themselves into a sort of a building with a large driveway covered with shrubs and things, so you can sort of have a sexual dalliance there. Their main important idea was to have me have sex with them. They would yell rape. I would be deported because I had just come into the country, nobody knows me, and my word wouldn't matter to anything. Then I left it. I didn't worry about that. The only way I recalled it is because when I started driving for the transit, these buggers used to come in and say, he's a rapist, and then they would all start shouting at me. And this rapist thing started with BC Hydro supervisors. The supervisors went out telling everybody, they said, he's a rapist, we want him to hate us. This is how it all started. And the reason for that was I told Hydro that their entire bus system was completely bullshit. It was completely cracked. The buses were no good. They had you couldn't even get the windows clean from the frost, from the cold. The machines were not working to keep the wind. You know what I'm talking about here. So the whole thing would get cloudy. You have to go outside and clean it with your toilet paper or whatever you have, whatever. So, and the schedules were all wrong. The bus routes were completely kapusi. So I went in there, I walked in there, and I said, your transit system is completely haywire. A manager sitting down there in the new building, he was going to fire me when a woman said, no, you can't fire Mr. Fernandez, he's special. So that ended that. But they sent the at that time it was called BC Hydro. They sent the supervisors out telling everybody. I would go to fill gas at a station and the supervisor was already there with his car, and he would tell them, look, cause this problem here. That's how. So everywhere, all over the world, this has started, where everybody is hating me before they know me from the mind. And this has caused a lot of problems. It has made me frustrated. I couldn't fight for my family because even my ex-wife believed some of it, and she took off and left me there knowing it was mind control. But what really makes me mad is they had hexed me. They had hexed me with rape, training, 6 months, doctor, hospital, baby, and I don't know whether streets was a hex or not. But the worst hex was not rape. The worst hex was training. As soon as you said training in the 70s, I would not be able to talk for about 3 or 4 hours. I would lose everything. Somebody could come and ask me, say, where's Eaton's? And I'd be right in front of it, and I wouldn't know. They'll ask me, where's the bus route? I wouldn't know. I was so scared. And they used this scare to ruin me. They said, look, your family is gone. You cannot fight it. We're going to do this thing so that you cannot afford your family nothing. You're going to be bankrupt. You're going to you're going to be homeless. You're going to lose everything. We hate you. Then, and they used to have these special buses with this training sign come onto the routes exactly where they knew that I was driving at night. And that wasn't coincidence, it's all mind control. Okay, so that's as far as the transit was concerned. And if I reported it, they would take me off the bus and say, look, psychiatric evaluation. They did that 3 times. The 4th time, they kicked me right out. That was in 1987, January. And if it wasn't for this, and if it wasn't for this if it wasn't for this shop steward from the airlines, they would have fired me. Fortunately, he was there. He said, no, we have seen Mr. Fernandez come back with his buses at night, and he has such a pained expression on his face, so we know he's not lying. They would have fired me because it was easy to get rid of me. And I was the one that contributed such a lot to the transit. I contributed with the flyovers, which they went with the SkyTrain. I was the one for the park and ride. I even measured the road on Granville Street to see the width of the lanes, because I knew that something was wrong here. And then City Hall works like this. They widen the sidewalk 2 feet every year, move the lamp posts, and every year they will move this so that it creates employment for 1,000 years. I cannot understand that. And in Surrey they do it by 4 feet. I don't understand this. Anyway, and each time I brought this up to the notice of the Vancouver Sun newspaper. Those employees, they had red trucks or orange trucks. They would try to run over my little Toyota, and I dodged them really well the last time, and I got really scared. This was at 41st and Oak. Just before 41st, there was a farmer save or some sort of medical thing there. I managed to turn in there and get out. Then the second time, the City Hall, the garbage detail, they tried to back into their truck while I was coming in there, and I managed to get out of there because I could back out faster than them. And then they said they were trying to stop me from getting this job in transit, because if you have an accident, you can't get hired. So this is all. This dirty little bees. Then I want to go back to this hex. The worst hex was training. The next hex, then they started it, when that started wearing off, it was rape. As soon as you say it or bring it out on the newspaper on Friday, the Saturday and Sunday I would stay home, or the next 2 days that I was off, depending on what days I was off. Really made me frustrated. They had 5 or 6 hexes against me, and I couldn't fight for the family because each time they used a hex, I would go into a trembling thing when I was alone. The dirty little bastards. I was helping them, and they were doing this so that according to them, that I was going over their head, or I was making something better. Therefore, I was a menace to them. I was a threat, and therefore they had to do all these things. They had gangs come into the bus, one after another, coming in there and scaring me. And if I said that, and this was brainwashing, because each time I was always thinking about doing my house up, how to make money, how to be financially free. And these little bastards, they would come in their gangs and they would scare the hell out of me. They would throw eggs on the bus, and when I reported, they'll say, oh, there's nothing happening. They would come at me. One fellow came at me with a knife one day and said, give me that transit passes. So I gave it to him, and of course he went away because he was shocked. The bus drivers, when I go into the bus depot, the bus drivers will start saying all sorts of hatred. And when the family was here and I was going to see them the next morning, I couldn't do that because this hatred was stuck in me, and I couldn't do that. And then they would laugh in their hate. They would also stand in front of the scheduled rack where I have to put my bus schedule either before or after, and stand in front there and then laugh because I'll have to say excuse me and all this sort of thing. And because they were bigger than me, I had to play the game because they're all senior to me. They're all senior bus drivers. And I remember one bus driver saying at the sign-up, his name was George Morrow, I think. He says, look, we do not want this man to do better than us. That is why we are affecting him. And this comes from a bus driver who's one senior to me. And we were at the same class. And the sad thing is, I could not fight for the family because even the company said it was paranoia when I reported to them, and I did not have anybody else to back me up. If the company says something like that, the people decided, oh, we will take advantage of this bugger because the company doesn't care. So when the family was leaving, I had one year before the divorce was finalized, and I tried to get a hold of it and tried to fight it. There was no way. Each time I tried to fight it, somebody with pre-knowledge, mind control, would do something to harm me or affect my houses or do something like that. And you have seen that they were given the power in 1971 to destroy the houses. They were told to destroy the houses. Because I don't know who gave them this power. I'd really like to know who gave them this power and who gave them this thing that to completely destroy me, knock down all my motivation, smash all my ambitions, and to what extent? Because I'm just one person. I don't understand how I would be the sort of threat to all these dirty little bastards. That good?